Okay, Geeta Dhyanam. O Bhagavad Gita, by which Arjuna was illumined by Lord Krishna himself, and which was composed of 18 chapters within the Mahabharata by the ancient sage Vyasa. O Divine Mother, destroyer of rebirth, who showers the nectar of oneness upon us, O Bhagavad Gita, my affectionate mother, on thee I meditate. All the Upanishads are the cows. The milker is the cowherd boy, Krishna. Arjuna is the calf, and people of purified intellect are the drinkers. The milk is the supreme nectar of the Gita. My salutations to the Lord, who is the source of supreme bliss, whose grace makes the mute eloquent and the crippled cross mountains. Hari Om Tat Sat. Nathan, do you have one of the
little paper?
No.
Sorry.
But apparently that's important too. So if you didn't, you should get one. No, actually, and you don't want to set those straight on the floor. I mean, there's so much coming at you at once. But that books, holy books do not sit directly where on the floor. You place them on there are reasons for all of this stuff, and you can ask any questions as you go, of course.
I won't put my foot on the altar.
And it's not, that's it. And it's not right. So you got it. Jai. No, dear. What I was going to ask is, do you have one of the thermal cups?
I do.
Okay. So if you use that, then you don't have to get up.
Because they're larger.
Yeah, because they're larger. Since it's important to you to have that tea, then you don't have to get up and leave the satsang hall and then have to come back.
It is more justification to move my knees and snap them a little bit.
Okay. What I'm noticing is that the beginning trend, which is everybody leaves after the kirtan and then comes back, and soon there will be no one here to chant the Gita Dhyana when it's time. So kind of like looking at one by one, but everybody knows I'm talking to them as well. Whatever you do, others will follow.
I don't like to have tea before chanting because it messes my voice.
No, I know, and there's always a reason.
Yeah. So I walk and then I go back there and get my tea. I figure I'm up, so I'm just going to continue eating my tea.
I just do it because he does it.
I know.
I know.
See? That's it. That's what he said. Whatever you do, people will follow you. So be aware of what you're doing. Be always mindful. And also watch and see how everybody picks it up and then decide, well then what do I want to lead in?
When I first started, I thought,
the responsibility of having this life, before long you say, I don't want to do this again, darn it. Because there's no right way to live it, you see. There's no way to live it where everyone will agree that you're right. Isn't that so? Finally you say, darn it, I've had enough of this. Which is where we're ready for the beautiful lesson today. Because then we feel the need to explain ourselves, right? And look, it just bubbles up. Shivadas, it just bubbles up. It just bubbles up. It comes up and it says, I have to explain. I have to be understood. Yeah, isn't it something?
I was just thinking...
This birth is tough. This stuff is really tough. All the stuff we're dealing with.
The mind said, I'm the only one going to get, tea, so everybody else can chant, the Gita.
Yeah, see?
So, yeah.
I know.
And how everybody's...
I know. And then it's like, but this is the only reason I did it.
Yeah.
And look who it is that's doing that. It's not you.
Yeah.
It's not you doing it.
I always feel like I'm breaking the rules and I'm sneaking around, kind of. Like I feel like I'm not supposed to do it, but I did it anyway.
I know. That's the thing.
Bad.
That's the thing here. Well, and people will say it's bad, and some people will say it's good. Nobody will agree on anything here.
Some people want to go back in time.
Yeah, and some people want to go forward. So which one's right? That's the way it is here. My God. Oh. And if you don't see what's really here, then it's an absolute mess. Yeah. Yeah, Suma Devi?
I just want to hear the lesson.
Oh, sorry.
This is related to the lesson, you see. Oh. Okay. So we're at 22. Yesterday, 21, this reminder will ring bells. The soul seated in nature, right? So the soul seated here. Somebody asked me, every now and then I get asked about my asana practice. And you see, asana practice actually is referring to, you say, a steady, comfortable seat. Soul sitting in nature, steady, comfortable seat. That's what asana means. And so I say, yes, my asana practice is just fine. Right?
This is only
So
after,
there's only, sorry?
that was only after being going through the process of learning the.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. So, but I get to joke. And actually everybody does. If we don't have our sense of humor, it's like, Swami Premananda reminds us, he says, the sign of waking up is to be able to laugh at yourself more and more.
I guess I say just so I don't fall into not doing the physical asana.
Oh, yeah.
I'm fine.
No, and by the way, we have to, really, this body is something. It's the 5 elements, for God's sake. It's quite something. I mean, it's quite something. But then in the form, when I first went to India, I never sat in a meditation posture. Never. I don't remember ever having done it. Even when the first times that I would sit to meditate, I would always sit in a chair. And I got there, and Swami Premananda, who I saw as an elder, he was sitting in meditation posture. And it's like, okay, then I have to do it. And every day he would tell me, no, just sit in a chair, because I struggled so much with it. But I just kept at it. And then TTC, where there was guide, and then I made a special point of reading from CIBY and studying each of the different postures and trying every single one of them. But that was the inspiration. As it was really being with Swami Premananda. That was the inspiration. And I'm saying, I can do this. I can do this. So, but really asana means the seat, the soul seated in nature and steady, comfortable. Ultimately, experience is the qualities born of nature. Attachment to the qualities is the cause of his birth in good and evil wombs. So we continue here. The Supreme Soul in this body is also called the spectator, the permitter, the supporter, the enjoyer, the great Lord, and the Supreme Self. He who thus knows the spirit and matter together with the qualities, in whatever condition he may be, he is not born again. See, we said we'd be dealing with this. And this is a beautiful lesson, and there's a lot here. One more time, and then we can read the commentary. First, the Supreme Soul in this body. So we have concept of individual soul in this body. When we're caught up with the feeling of separation. The Supreme Soul in this body is also called the spectator, the permitter, the supporter, the enjoyer, the great Lord, and the Supreme Self. He who thus knows the spirit and matter together with the qualities, in whatever condition he may be, he is not born again. So if you pick up the in whatever condition he may be, what could that mean, Umadevi? In whatever condition he may be. Whatever the circumstances. Whatever the circumstances. Whatever role you're playing. Renunciate. A lot of people think I have to be, a renunciate to be free or something like that. The renunciation is an inner renunciation, right? So in whatever condition he may be means what is conditioning?
Is it a learned behavior?
Yeah. But this body is also conditioned, Because this body shape and function and all of that is a result of the interplay. If there's a limb cut off, that's a result of the interplay.
Certain limitation?
Sorry?
A limitation?
Yeah, idea of limitation, but it is. Condition is the experiences. Conditions are the parents. Conditions are the society that you grow up in. Conditions are the color of the skin. The conditions are what people say or do or such to you. The conditions are the predisposition within the mind on what kind of labor or work or contribution or desires, or these are all conditions. So whatever condition he may be, he's not born again. Okay, here's the commentary. Swamiji says, it's good to have a clear idea of the two in one and their distinct functions. The two in one, you catch what's being referred to there, Mataji?
Supreme Soul and this body.
And nature, spirit and nature, the two in one. Yesterday we were inspired to chant the Radhe, 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 Govinda, Hari, and being the two in one. The feminine and masculine, the two in one.
Dancing at the Ganga.
Sorry?
Dancing at the Ganga.
Yeah, dancing at the Ganga, yes. So to have a clear idea of the two in one and their distinct functions, are we catching having clarity on the distinct functions between spirit and nature? The relationship between spirit and nature. Which aspect is involved with and is doing or not doing, and the other aspect is doing or not doing? Yeah? Oh.
One might be almost like the fuel, and then one might just be the play.
So, what's the chapter we're dealing with? Come back to that. What's the name of it? Yoga of the field and the... Anybody can help.
No.
Knower of the field. The knower of the field is who?
The
ultimate? No, not something apart from you. The knower of the field is? I. And the field is?
Mind.
Everything that I experience. So spirit, nature. Purusha, I. Supreme Lord. In the depth, Supreme Lord, I. I and Supreme Lord are not in different places. Right? It seems like it, but it's not. And then the field, nature. Okay. So it is good to have a clear idea of the two in one and their distinct functions. as that will enable us to undilutedly recognize their manifestations. In that light of clarity, we shall not, like King Canute. Has anybody ever heard of King Canute? I've not. Okay.
No.
Order the waves of ever-changing phenomenon to stop, nor shall we get entangled in the web of these changes, regarding them as inevitable. The Supreme Soul in the body is called the Jiva. Supreme Soul, quote, in the body is called the Jiva. Jivatman. Atman. Jiv means separate or embodied. Is the soul actually in the body? Or
Not only.
not only? Thank you. Very good. Not only. In and out, just like space, right? In the body, out of the body. It's usually described that a better way to relate to it is the soul, the body is in the soul. But it's as if the soul is in the body, and that's what we're working with. Please.
So we're talking about functions, but
Yes.
aren't functions just in the play? Because he's saying the functions.
There's a relationship, and this one's exploring the relationship. And it's pretty clear that there's a relationship, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, experientially, it's clearly there's a relationship. So that's what he's exploring. And these terms, we're exploring the spectator, permitter, supporter, enjoyer, great Lord, and supreme self. So we're exploring each of these terms, which is the soul in the body, as it were. Okay, so the supreme soul in this body is called the Jiva, though on account of ignorance, this Jiva considers himself to be limited. You can actually see that, technically speaking. So when we have an understanding that this feeling of separation is just that, it's just a feeling of separation. And do we get that? And experientially, are we seeing it more? So seeing it more, I mean, not with physical eyes, but of course with the intellect. Because experientially, don't you have experiences when there's no feeling of separation? All the time, right? Often. Yeah. Whenever you're engaged and the mind is fully occupied, do you feel separate? No. So it's a feeling of separation, but it's not always present with you, correct? And for sure, you know that when you have moments of meditation, that it's not present with you, correct? And you know in deep sleep that it's not present with you. So you actually even know where it is if you analyze it. You know where that feeling exists, where it resides. And it's clearly in the person. Yes? And it's somehow at the center of the desires and the thoughts and all of this. So when you come out and you have to get something, then the feeling of separation is right at the center of that need to get something, isn't it? Yeah? So you can even, oh, look at Davy, beautiful. So you can even see, if you analyze, you can even see where it is.
I'll see, right.
Can you see where it is, Shiva Das?
Yes.
Yeah. It's like at the beginning of the arising. It's right there, isn't it?
Yes.
That feeling of being separate. Just at the beginning of the arising. And then all of the stuff in the arising seems to be done in a field where I'm separate from you. Where you and I are separate. But do you see that you can actually begin to grasp that it's a feeling? And the more you get that, the more you want to put that to work. That knowledge that it's a feeling of being separate. It's not really separation. And you explore the inner and the outer. And as you explore the inner more, you see complete and absolute commonality. Your peace is my peace, is his peace, is her peace. Huh? Your happiness, it's our happiness. And then the Lord says, the happiness is me, right? The peace is me, it's my peace. So you're experiencing my peace, or you're experiencing me as peace. Oh. So does that help with relationship? So the Supreme Soul in this body is called the Jiva, though on account of ignorance. And we know what that ignorance, avidya, and the feeling of separate, are they the same or different?
Same.
The feeling of separation is called ignorance. Ignorance is called the feeling of separation. They're part and parcel, one and the same. Whenever in the scriptures that we're dealing with, whenever ignorance is spoken of, it's this ignorance. It's not some other ignorance. It's not saying that we're stupid and we don't know how to sew a cloth, or we don't know how to stand up. It's not saying any of that. It's saying we're ignorant. That means we are caught up in the feeling of separation. That's all it means. It never means something else. Is that? Can you relate that? If you see a doubt, if you can see any other example, you can raise it. But every time ignorance or avidya comes up, avidya and ego sense are really one and the same. The only difference would be that the ego sense can be there. And when there's wisdom, what does that mean? The intellect is firm in recognizing, even though the feeling is there, I'm not separate. Have you ever experienced a feeling that you just don't accept and you don't live according to? Yeah? Where you recognize, if I follow that feeling, I lose myself. Right? And so you say, I will not, I shall not. Do you have experience with that? Oh. So the Jivan Mukta, the one who's free, the feeling is there, but they refuse to accept it. That's said to be wisdom, or firm intellect, or like that. So the Jiva, the Supreme Soul in this body is called the Jiva, though on account of ignorance, this Jiva considers himself limited. So the feeling, but not the feeling alone, accepting the feeling as true and correct. So in waking state, not just feeling separate, but living as if you are separate. And accepting it as the reality of your situation. Does that make sense?
I'm having a hard time focusing.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why you're learning. That's why you're learning self-control. Yeah. It's not easy. It's not easy. But if you stick with it, then you'll succeed. Oh. Okay. The Jiva, he is a spectator. He is a spectator. And that is when he is happy. This is Swamiji's commentary. Do you have the experience of being a spectator of the field? Sometimes. So in that experience, there's not a feeling of attachment to the things that are happening.
So yesterday, I was putting fuel in my car, and I felt like I was watching me doing it.
There you go.
And I was like, in my head,
There it is.
Look at you, everything is so dense.
There it is.
It was so
There it
interesting.
is. There it is. There it is. We talked about that, right? Yeah. It didn't last for a long time.
Nope.
but you better not forget it. You are best not to forget it. People have in sadhakas, yogis, practitioners, will have the feeling and the expectation that awakening means I'll always be like that. That experience has to always be there. Well, that's... Thank you. Knowing becomes firm when you know, regardless of what the experience is. But sometimes you'll have these experiences through grace because you've committed yourself to path and you're engaging in the practices. And so then you'll catch a break from yourself and it will be literally like that. Right? And now you see something, yes? Yes, Mataji, you have something?
So yesterday was emotional tantrum day for this guy. Joy, always in and out, just firm resolve, keep coming back.
That's it. That's the practice of yoga. That's the practice of yoga. Is you honor what you come to know instead of the feeling. And by taking those steps, then through grace, you'll have an experience like this. And now you know something. What are we talking about? Conscious mind knowing. Conscious mind knowing. But you have to live it in order to make it firm. The knowing. So that's an example of spectator. And you notice how when the soul is the spectator, how free it is. But it's actually always the spectator. Also. But now you've had an experience of what that means. Also, in addition to spectator, and he says, and that's when he is happy, the jiva, as it were, the soul, quote unquote. He's the permitter, having the prerogative to say yes or no. Do we see that? So this is a role that we're actually very familiar with, and this is said to be a soul quality. So the permitter, having the ability to say yes or no. Something arises, do you see you have the ability to say yes or no? So you know that you're supposed to be up at such and such a time, for example. I have to use this example. It's an easy example to relate to. Because you resolve that night before, you say, I'm going to do such and such. And then somehow, of course, mysteriously, you find that you're actually kind of awake at that time. And then something says, but I'm going to sleep longer, it won't make any difference. But you see, you have the ability to say yes or no. Yeah. It doesn't just happen. You have to say yes or no. So you're the permitter. You allow or don't allow this person to do on its own.
It's not just yes or no, though. It's also maybe, and also yes or no plus the willpower.
Yeah, which is still yes or no, but that's non-judgmental. Krishna does. It really it is. It's still yes or no. When I say maybe and don't act, I said, which did I say? I mean, so I'm going to do this. I take a resolve, and then the time comes, and there are forces at play, test, whatever, right? It has to be. And then maybe, but maybe is a yes or no.
Right, I guess I was just more pointing to the forces at play.
Oh yeah, the forces at play are everything. Yeah, indeed. They can be anything at any moment.
They are strong.
And sometimes it's like completely overwhelming. And sometimes all you can do is come back to it later.
Oh.
So he is the permitter. So that's what's intended there. So it is not it, and is not as helpless as it sometimes imagines itself to be. Recognizing this power of the soul, one is able to freely exercise his free will. The jiva is the supporter. It is sheer delusion which makes him feel dependent upon material phenomena. I feel we're coming to recognize this. Yeah. So I say, I need this to happen in order to be happy. I'm dependent upon external phenomena. Then I'm called a victim, right? But do I really need something to be happy? You're learning no, correct? And experientially also, you're learning no, right? Yeah. So then why did I feel, why did I think, why did I accept that I needed something outside in order to be full? Only delusion. Because there wasn't an actual need. And Gandhi is still fresh with us, and just such a beautiful example of this, right? And that's a big example, but we all have our examples. Oh. And then, yet he is also the enjoyer. And because of that fact, he enjoys the material phenomena. Whenever enjoyer is used, enjoyer, non-enjoyer, right? I like this, I don't like that, it's the same. So when enjoyer is used in the texts, it also means non-enjoyer. Not in a neutral sense, but here, let me give an example. Show and tell. That tastes good. I am the enjoyer. Line here in the field that says, I can next time have all of the right experiences.
I have a question on that.
Yes.
So wouldn't it be, I find it fascinating to be on Earth.
Oh,
and,
we have to close.
No,
go ahead, please.
I gotta drink a few.
No.
Wouldn't be that
I just realized.
like helpful for the evolution of humanity, this human experience to come and what would be of Earth if we don't continue to come
the one evolution, yeah, but there's one evolution. There's one place we're going, which is to peace or to freedom. That's all anyone wants here, and every movement is a movement towards that. And freedom is this knowledge that I am not this body. That's freedom. Wisdom is knowing the relationship between the knower and the field, and having an understanding of the field, and therefore not being disturbed by it. Otherwise, there is no avoiding the constant switching up between pleasure and pain. Like can't be here without dislike. And the relative unreality of the experiential plane is not its own. And so many have tried in order to carve out a particular set of experience with the hope that that experience could provide happiness. But experiences can't provide happiness. Happiness is the quality of the soul. So what can you do? Ultimately, in every single tradition, what is said to be the number one contribution that an individual can make?
Service?
Enlightenment.
Oh.
In every single tradition. Swami Ramasrup used to say, everyone wants to be happy. And he would say, so be happy and then help others to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
Be happy and then help others to be happy. And in order to be happy, one simply and fully needs to know, I am bliss.
Mm-hmm. I was like trying to vacuum the room. You gotta plug into the wall first.
Yes? Jai. Jai. So you've got to plug in the source first.
In Buddhism, it's a bodhisattva vow.
Yeah.
What you're talking about. You want to come back to earth to contribute.
Oh.
And that's a very high, selfless desire, but they have to reach enlightenment first.
Yeah.
And that's a prerequisite.
Yeah. And then, please.
Alright, here I come.
Yeah, please.
Otherwise, can you be sure that you're really going to have that positive impact that you thought you would? It's going to be mixed.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. And I'm there, by the way, but I reached the point where I said, but I can't continue to carry the stuff I've been carrying. Because whatever we're carrying, we're giving. Okay, we should close. It's that time. Short final prayer in Arati. We lost track of time. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Orvairukamiva Bandhanan Mritor Mokshiyamamritata Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Orvairukamiva Bandhanan Mritor Mokshiyamamritata Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Orvairukamiva Bandhanan Mritor Mokshiyamamritata Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Bolo Sakar Shivananda Maharaj Ki
Jai.
And for all the saints and sages of all the traditions. Jai. Okay, all right, please.